What is up, everybody? Welcome to Speak Now Pro Wrestling. It is Wednesday, October 16th, and we are here to talk AEW Dynamite. Now, today we don't got Righteous Reg with us, but we got none other than Kate Hensler. Kate, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I look just a little different than Reg. My hair is just like slightly different than him, but otherwise, dead ringer for him. No, he was at the show.
You gotta show us the forehead, Kate. You could have like a way better forehead than Reg. Reg is known for his famous forehead. There we go, another gorgeous forehead. Wait, I feel like first time we've ever seen your forehead, because I always ever see you with bangs.
I know the bangs are kind of like they've unintentionally become a trademark because honestly, I have a 5 head if I don't have bangs, so I keep the bangs around to prevent that. But very excited to talk my 5 head and Dynamite with you tonight. Thank you so much for having me back on.
We're gonna have everybody here vote. Who has the bigger forehead? Is it Kate or is it Reg?
See, well, this is
just still beating you on this one, Kate.
It's because I've got you got to have the girls know you have the framing layers to cut down on the volume, and then whether you want to fill in here is up to you. I choose to, but it's really you got to have like the this piece, and you know.
It's
Reg
the curtain bangs. That's what they call them, apparently. It's a curtain. Yeah. I don't know how or I don't know why, but that's what it is. But for those of you asking where Reg is here tonight, he is at the show. He was at Dynamite. It was in San Jose, so that's where he was at. He was watching the show live. So Reg was being a little fancy. But, oh, man, I don't even know where to begin, Kate. This was a show, coming off of Wrestledream. I really wasn't sure, hey, which direction are we going to go in, especially since we came off of such a sad ending with Wrestledream. But, hey, we kicked off today, and the show had a lot. I mean, it had a lot that had with the Elite, but primarily Jon Moxley's brand new group. Before we get into all of the nitty-gritty details, how'd you feel about Dynamite overall?
So overall, I liked it. I feel like if you're going to do kind of a sadder ending, like Danielson as a sicko is going to give you on his way out, you want that heat to follow you to the next town. You want that to continue the story that you're getting here. I thought it was well executed tonight. I do feel like Dynamite is starting to feel kind of crowded with the number of segments that they've been putting into things. And I kind of miss when they would have wrestling like quick off in these segments. It took about 20 minutes to get to our first match today. So some of the pacing is not for me, but from the content, I think it's a really, really good thing that you have kind of this umbrella story picking up with Mox hanging over the whole episode. And also, we've got a pretty healthy AEW roster, which we haven't been able to say for a while. Sans Kenny Omega, you have Adam Cole back, you have MJF back. Samoa Joe's been away, but he could come back whenever he's done filming. A lot of these, Jay White's back. You have a lot of the long-term injury guys kind of filling in. And when Kenny gets back, you're looking pretty good. So it's nice to have a lot of the top draws around again. It just makes the show feel important, and it's nice to see those guys starting to fill into the title picture and title adjacent pictures to give some more meat on the bone to these title adjacent stories.
I think you got it right there, more meat on the bone. I felt like we really had that today because there was multiple stories that we're going to kind of talk about here today. It almost feels like right now AEW is starting to branch out in different directions. And by that, I mean okay, you can tell they're starting to work on certain things that might have not been tended to in a while. For example, that tag team division. I feel like that's something that they might, have heard some people's feedback and are trying to get that going again. But there are some things that need a little bit tweaking, and we'll get into those. But I want to go ahead and kick things off with our first couple of super chats and see where everybody is sort of taking us here today. We got Crazy 101 who says, I need Jericho to retire, defend the title on Ring of Honor. So I guess that's where we're starting. So at Wrestledream, we had Chris Jericho versus Mark Briscoe, obviously for the Ring of Honor championship. And Kate, I was shocked because I kept telling Reg during our watch along, watch, Chris Jericho's going to win. Chris Jericho's going to win, because I felt like, why else would they do this if Chris Jericho's not going to win? And then he did it. And I thought, oh, thank God I was wrong, right? But then we find out today that Jericho wants a rematch. Mark Briscoe, basically it happens. It's going to happen next week in a ladder match. We're going to see Chris Jericho versus Mark Briscoe once again. And Kate, they ain't gonna do this twice and not have Chris Jericho win. Like, he's not gonna lose 2 times to Mark Briscoe. Like, am I crazy here? Or do you think that the writing's on the wall?
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought that Jericho was going over for sure on pay-per-view. I have not been a fan of this. I do watch and review ROH, and they have not had a contender for the ROH title built up on ROH since as long as I can remember. Like, it's been forever since they've done anything like that, which is disappointing off the bat. And then to pivot Jericho to ROH just doesn't feel right to me. I felt like the shot with Jay was so unearned because it's not like someone that had a huge history with Jay. I haven't liked the story that they've given us, and I definitely don't want Jericho around ROH. I feel like ROH is supposed to be one of the more pure wrestling-based brands, and Jericho just, like, God bless him, I feel like has aged out of it. He doesn't really, like, jump for suplexes anymore. I feel like in-ring-wise, he's best served in plunder matches and things like that to kind of compensate for certain things. I will say, if the payoff is to get us to Brian Keith or Big Bill winning the ROH title, that could be pretty cool. But I just don't have a lot of faith in that because that's not the way ROH has been booked. But yeah, this latest Jericho run has not been for me at all.
It's interesting because, like, I mean, first of all, I don't even remember the last time I watched Ring of Honor, Kate. So I know you cover it on a weekly basis. I can tell you, I don't even know what's going on right now on the Ring of Honor side of things. So I'm like, I had heard, great things for a long time about Athena, that she had been killing it. That was more so like late last year. I have no idea what's going on right now on the show, but that's kind of depressing though to hear, because it's like, it should be something that, I don't know, it should be a place for people to try to get better so that you can go on and be on Dynamite, be on Collision, be doing those kinds of shows.
I mean, they have such a big roster. You would think it would be somewhere to alleviate the amount of talent that they have for them to go and be able to exercise there a little bit. But for perspective, like, Shane Taylor challenged for the title back in August and they've never done anything with it. Like, it is just feels like they tape with Collision and then whoever's not being taped for Collision is the leftovers there. There's not really.
So Shane Taylor challenged for the belt and never actually got the match, and this was a couple months ago?
Correct. Yeah, that was
no. That tells me everything I need to know.
That's the perfect microcosm for it. Yeah.
Okay, I was worried. I was like, oh God, am I missing out so much? But no, I figured, I was like, hey, that's how I gauge everything, right? Like, what I see on social media tells me, like, hey, I should be tuning into the show. If I wasn't already tuning in, I should be tuning in. So I don't know, it sucks, but hey, that's where we're at. But who knows? I know you probably don't want to hear this. I'm sure people probably don't want to hear this, but maybe I can't even say it. I was gonna say maybe Jericho winning the Ring of Honor World Championship again might help in some sort of fashion. It can, maybe.
If it's a means to an end for the Learning Tree breaking up and one of the talent that's associated with that act holding the title, I think that's good. If it's them trying to strap up Jericho to sell it to TV network, that's good in the long term. I just don't need like another long extended Jericho reign without a payoff. Like, we've seen that ROH title be shopped around to just AEW main roster guys, Claudio, right? Like, people like that. Claudio was at least a more present champion than we've seen Mark be, but there are means to an end that could be optimistic with a Jericho title reign. Unfortunately for me, it's just like, not the juice isn't in the title reign. The juice is who he loses to, or if ROH lands a TV deal. So
yeah, for sure, in terms of like who he loses to, but I don't know, man. It kind of just feels like it's just there. Like, we're gonna do what we can with Ring of Honor, but it doesn't feel like it's necessarily the utmost importance, which is unfortunate. We got Shelton Jackson here in the house who says, now I'm waiting for Bobby and hoping Kenny King shows up in AEW. That would combine the Beatdown Clan and the Hurt Business to make the Hurt Syndicate. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see like how they who they add to their version of the Hurt Business and what this is going to look like. So let's go ahead and dive into that, because we had quite a bit, right? So first and foremost, we had a backstage segment, or it was Shelton Benjamin versus Lio Rush, and it was after this match that we saw MVP once again sort of call out Swerve Strickland and say like, hey, this is going to be you. And he pointed at Lio Rush, thrown there on the mat after he got beat by Shelton Benjamin. This could be you if you don't align or join us. I want you to rethink this. And now that I remember, yes, there was also the backstage segment where he approached the Acclaimed and sort of, pointed at the fact that they have not been all that serious. And if they want to get serious, here's their business card. Now, they sort of, basically dismissed MVP and we're like, no, we're not interested. We don't need you. But I don't know, maybe not. They can circle back to that because we have talked about how the Acclaimed is sort of not as hot as they used to be. So can you imagine, just throwing this out there, what if it was Anthony Bowens who joined the Hurt Syndicate and you see this breakup of the Acclaimed? So it feels like right now, obviously they're adding to their group. We know Bobby Lashley is going to come down at some point, but who else is going to join this group? It's not just going to be them three. Like there's going to be somebody else, but whom?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this. I thought what we got out of Shelton and Leo was a really healthy sign for things. I think MVP has become one of the most natural talkers, and everything that he's done since he's come in has just fit like a glove with what they're trying to build out. But approaching the Acclaimed is really interesting. I think actually the last time I was on here, it was kind of a referendum on where the Acclaimed was at. People were...
I feel like you nailed it down. Like you painted it out very clearly. I was like, oh shit, I did not realize people were really not killing the Acclaimed. Like until like you basically, it was like glass shatters moment.
I Stone Cold Steve Austin introed it. I really glass shattering intro, but I'm a huge Anthony Bowens fan. I feel like he has a very, very high ceiling. He's an independent standout in the Northeast before he was signed to AEW. Quite talented. This could be a really, really interesting thing, and I think it would be good for both of them if there was a split here. If this is the direction they chose to go, I think that could be really cool. I think Max Caster having to kind of reevaluate where he stands as an act while Bowens gets absorbed into the Hurt Syndicate is something that could feed families for a long time. I think it could be really good for Caster to bring out a different side of him and Bowens work rate wise. And let's not underestimate how good of a promo Anthony Bowens is too. I know he's kind of the hype man in this act, but that guy can promo as well. So I think that would be a great way to maximize the potential of both of those wrestlers more than they are as a tag team right now.
Right. And so I'm excited though. I got to tell you, just seeing, for example, like this match that we got with Shelton Benjamin and Leo Rush, what I liked about it was that Shelton Benjamin did not have to do that much during this. He did like a couple things here and there, but because of the size discrepancy between Shelton Benjamin and Leo Rush was basically just like being thrown like left and right, like a rag doll. Like when Shelton Benjamin was suplexing him, he would just toss his body. He didn't even do like the full bridge and keep it there for a bit. None of that. It was just, you're in the air, you're gone, toodaloo, Leo Rush, right? Like that was gone. But I had fun with this match, and we are going to be seeing Shelton Benjamin versus Swerve Strickland. That's happening next week. So I guess I like the pace at which this story is moving with introducing her business members into the group. I know everybody, including myself and Reg, we were expecting to see Bobby Lashley at Wrestledream. I know reports, basically came out saying that because of what was sort of done with the main event with Brian and with Mox, it looked like there wasn't necessarily a spot in there for them to tell a similar story, which I'm glad that they thought about that, Kate, right? Because if you're going to do anything where, for example, Bobby Lashley comes out and he completely dismantles Swerve Strickland, you don't want to do that twice on the same show. So that does make sense to me.
Yeah, I feel like they're two different sides of the same coin. Like, I don't know if it would have resonated as a bummer for Swerve, because I think people will just be so excited that Bobby Lashley gets there that I don't think it would be maybe viewed as beating up the hometown guy as much as it would be like, hell yeah, Bobby Lashley's here. But I certainly understand why that would be a concern, especially with how dark of a note that the pay-per-view did leave us with. They pivoted beautifully, if that was the original plan as reported. So I think this is going at a good pace, and I had so much fun with that match too, Denise. Like Shelton and Leo Rush, such a great opponent, not only for the Leo Rush and Lashley history. Obviously, that's kind of looming over this whole angle, but stylistically, these two are so different. And then when you add the size discrepancy in there, it becomes even more fun. Leo Rush absolutely selling his butt off, I feel like, in a lot of this. And just making Shelton look like the force that he's been, and really could have been so much more in WWE if he was kind of in there at a different time. I think he's just one of the greatest in-ring technicians to ever do it. So I'm glad he's getting to do this in this stage of his career. I think it's a really, really fun use of a guy like Shelton Benjamin for sure.
Yeah, and Leo Rush was an interesting first opponent. Again, just kind of getting his feet back in the water, at least just like for the AEW atmosphere of it all. We got Roberto Arsenal here who says Moxley is a character that belongs on Gotham City. Hey, so, it's funny because I wasn't really feeling the idea of Jon Moxley being AEW World Champion. And that's truly where I was at, Kate, for the longest time. Once I saw the writing on the wall that, hey, Brian was going to be, gone for a bit and that this was going to happen, I wasn't necessarily that thrilled. However, the way that we opened the show here today, like they had Jon Moxley do this promo where he's basically saying that everybody works for him now, and he's so anti like what AEW is doing right now and all of the AEW talent. And we saw his group basically come in and out throughout the entire show. The big moment being when they beat up on Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Rocky Romero, to the point where all the baby faces had to go out there, and the Elite, who was there because they had just had this match, just outright did not care. They were like, like we're getting our hands dirty with them. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to stand here on the sidelines and not do shit. So, I feel a little bit more hopeful for this group, only because I can tell they actually care about how they're presenting them. I liked the opening video package, and I liked how they weaved in and out of Dynamite today.
I agree, and I had hesitations of it too for kind of the reasons that you alluded to, but also this idea of we kind of just did an umbrella story about the soul of AEW, and it feels like that's what we're going right back to in a much more serious, less comedic way than the Young Bucks and the EVP angle played out. So I didn't really love running those concurrently. I thought today was interesting because I feel like they left an opening for, despite the Young Bucks being heels and despite them being a kind of force hanging over AEW, like there's still an alley there for them to be completely combative with what's going on with the Blackpool Combat Club. Like it didn't feel like just because they're both heels with the same idea that they're on the same side. Like it feels like they might get their butt kicked, to be quite honest. So I like the way this is woven in and out. I like what this has done for Wheeler Yuta in particular. I feel like he's someone that needed an angle like this. And I like that it feels like this Moxley title reign is probably going to be focused on helping other talent level up through this kind of heel disguise. Like I feel like he's going to be going after people that have been beloved, that feel like this soul of AEW, like your Darby Allins, like your Orange Cassidys. And as a heel, he's going to be trying to knock down their egos and whatever is how it feels. So I think it's going to be a very productive and probably shorter run for Moxley that'll elevate a lot of talent, and that I'm always a fan of.
I was going to say, I kind of hope so, because I think all of us here are thinking Darby Allin, like Darby Allin's going to be that guy to dethrone Jon Moxley, and what a cool moment that would be for him. I think that's what a lot of people are sort of hoping for, but I'm so glad that you mentioned Wheeler Yuta here, because Wheeler Yuta for a long time was the guy that a lot of people were like, oh my God, he has so much potential. He's got a really great look, potential, right? You kept hearing that over and over again, but hey, how many times haven't you heard guys have potential, but you know that it takes a lot more to get them to that star level status? And so Wheeler Yuta is not there yet. I hope that with the way everything's going, with the way that this story is going, I really do hope that he begins to rise up, where we begin to see him more as a bigger star on the show. And he's obviously going to be getting that Jon Moxley rub, so that's going to be huge. To me, the person I'm most interested in this entire group, Kate, it's Pac. He's the one, because to me, he's the one that I buy most, where if I look at Wheeler Yuta, it's like, okay, guy with potential, right? Claudio Castagnoli, great wrestler. He doesn't necessarily scream terrifying, or he's not scary to me. That's not the presence he has. I know he's a great wrestler, but he's not scary to me. Jon Moxley, I see him as, the hardcore guy that's going to do all the blood and gut stuff. That's who he is. Pac, to me, because of his presence and the way that he is, he screams crazy bastard is going to come out here and rip my head off and tear my limbs apart because of the way that he conducts himself. So I kind of think that Pac is the most interesting person in this group. And I do hope that we sort of see him rise in stature as well. Again, like Wheeler Yuta in terms of, gaining that rub. Whereas Claudio Castagnoli is kind of just, I think we've gotten what we can get out of him. And he's sort of, just doing his thing. He's just consistent.
I really like that with the Blackpool Combat Club. There is this common thread of violence, but it shows up in different ways. Mox is like this bar brawlery kind of feel. Claudio, I feel like you said, like, he's not scary because he kind of has that like arrogant dickishness to him when he's a proper heel. Like when you see those vignettes, when you saw him suited up and drinking coffee, like those shades of him I think are still around. I love that Wheeler is kind of transitioning from this kid caught in the middle to I had to prove myself kind of thing. Him using the cattle mutilation, I absolutely love as a piece of storytelling here. But Pac, first of all, I'm just so glad that the guy is consistently healthy and able to be participating in an angle that means so much to the company. But you're right, he feels vicious and insane and almost like that dude that you're like, I would cross the street if I was walking down the street and saw him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not because he's so big and scary, but you just see that look in his eyes, and you're like, I have to get out of here. Yeah.
He's got the crazy eyes, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever watched How I Met Your Mother?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, do you remember, like, the hot crazy scale? Where it's like a girl can be a certain amount of crazy if she's a certain amount of hot?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's how I see Pac.
For Pac, it's like with the abs. It's like however many abs he has, that's how crazy he's allowed to go. That's where we're at, yeah.
Come up with the hot crazy scale, but for like pro wrestling. But no, in terms of like, I see Pac as, okay, he's a certain level of athleticism, so he's got to be a certain level of psycho. I don't know, I can't explain him, but the point is that he's got the crazy eyes, and that's what I like. Though it's always the person I feel that it's the madman, that's the loose cannon, that's the one that you never know what his next move is going to be. That to me is the way that Pac sort of presents himself in the group. So and we haven't even brought up Marina Shafir. How are you feeling about her presence on the group?
I love it. She always finds this way to, in these kind of side moments, just maximize what she's doing on screen. Like when she was just wrapped up backstage physically, and like she has the same thing. And I love that Mox was the one who brought her into this, because she has that same thing where like, I'm incredibly comfortable being very violent with you, and that is uncomfortable as a viewer, of like, I might actually kill you, but I'm totally cool with it. Like the craziness that we get with Pac, the like comfort level that other people have inflicting violence is such a unique kind of character thing, and I feel like that's what we get with her. Like she's like, yeah, I'm here to inflict as much pain and violence on you as possible, and I'm so unbelievably comfortable with it. Is like it makes your skin crawl a little bit in a really good way. So I like what we've gotten out of her in this angle so far. She also looks great. Like the look that she settled into is fantastic, I feel like, with this too.
Yeah, I was going to say it's working for me. I think she kind of won me over that day that she was getting Wheeler Yuta with all of those knees. I just thought it was hilarious. That one random shot that they showed of her just like going to town on it. That one little moment won me over with Marina. And so now I'm thinking, okay, it's kind of funny because she has this very serious look, right? Like she's very like, she's RBF, right? Like that's exactly what she has. But she kicks ass. And I'm like, okay, that's what I want to see, because it comes across as funny, especially because she's in there with guys. Like she's not necessarily beating up on women, she's beating up on these guys, and so you really got to make me believe it. You really, really have to. And I think that she brings enough intensity to where I can buy her necessarily beating up certain guys. Like maybe not, I don't know. I guess it depends on who she's interacting with. There are some that I'm going to buy more than others, but I mean, I definitely bought it with Wheeler Yuta. So I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, well, and I think I buy that she hangs out with these guys too. That's the other piece of it, is like, not only who are you facing, but like, do I buy that you are a part of this group? And I feel like when you see things like Best Friends or the Conglomeration, you're like lovable misfits that don't make sense together, but they do. And then there's ones where you can find common threads with people. And I feel like there's a very strong common thread with the Blackpool Combat Club right now, including her.
We got Grapple Geekery in the house who says it's your favorite grappler, your favorite tweeter, your favorite guest podcaster, Kate Fabulous. Oh, red grappler. Graper. Excuse me, Graper. You should know this, Kate. I can't read well on here, apparently. I got
I'm
bad
dyslexic,
vision.
so it's fine.
No, I do have my glasses today. So
look at you. Look at you with those. You look cute in the cat-eye glasses. I like that.
These don't come out often. But okay, have this. Okay, so just a random little note. Kate, you know how it is when you're using StreamYard. For whatever reason, I do not like to read the super chats on the screen. I like to read them on the little bar. Now, you know that little bar is hella freaking tiny.
Yes, it is.
You can barely see shit on there. And so there's times where I'm like, what the hell am I even doing? But anyways, Grapple Geekery here says, it's your favorite graper, your favorite tweeter, your favorite guest podcaster, Kate Fabulous. I always love Ladies Night on my favorite podcast. Hey, yo, Ladies Night. I like that.
Thank you so much. I always love getting to stream with Denise. It's always a good time here. I appreciate it.
Ebony Prince says, hi, Denise and Kate. Great show tonight. Thank you.
It was a really strong Dynamite tonight, and thanks for the chat.
Yeah, it was fun. We got Sim Ray G Punk says, I was a bit cautious about the Mox character because I hate when wrestlers talk in riddles and it never goes anywhere, but really satisfied that he made his reasoning clear so quickly. Dude, you're kind of like my twin because that's one of my pet peeves too, Kate. When someone starts talking in riddles, I completely zone out. It's very, very hard for me to focus. I don't know what it is, but once you start talking in poems and all of this, I'm out. And it happened to me a lot with Malachi Black. It happened to me with Karrion Kross. It happened to me with who else does it?
Bray
Sometimes
Wyatt,
Jon Moxley does it.
There were stretches of Bray Wyatt where it was just not cohesive.
Every time.
Ultimate Warrior. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah.
That was different. I think that one was more so like, I'm going to run. It was craziness, right? Like, you don't even know what the hell he's saying. I'm going to my dentist appointment at 9 o'clock. You would never know. He could have literally been telling us like, who knows, God knows what, like something really serious, and we would never know because of the delivery of it. But yeah, the riddle stuff, it completely loses me. And I think that's why this one worked, because the way that it was shot, it was sort of not like a music video, but it felt a little bit more.
A little bit though.
Right, like a music video.
I can see where you're coming from with that. And I think one thing about Mox doing a character like this is he's normally very grounded. Like, he's not normally this guy. So I feel like I'm optimistic because it feels like he's making a stylistic choice, but because his natural inclination is to be someone that's very rooted and wins, losses, reality kind of things, I feel like it won't get too lost because he's not normally a guy that veers in this direction, so I can't see him going so far in that direction that we lose the plot.
Right, because it wouldn't be believable at that point. Like, I feel like for example, like Jon Moxley's supposed to be this brawler. Like, that's what he is. That's what his style is. He's hardcore. He likes to, bite people, and he's not afraid of using weapons and getting bloodied and all of that. That's Jon Moxley to me. It has to be a lot more on the, I'm just going to go out there and kick your ass. And this is how I'm going to kick your ass because I'm maniacal and I'm crazy and I don't like you. That's as simple as the way it has to be, in my opinion.
So true. So true. Birds of a feather with Eddie Kingston. That's why they're always tangled up with each other.
yeah, that's literally it. We got Juan Ortega, by the way, who just became a brand new member of the DWO. Thank you so much to Juan. We got Victor here, Botina, who says, love Kate, love to John Taylor, LOLs. Oh, yes. We got John Taylor. Is John Taylor here in the house right now? I'm pretty sure he is. I'll peep out here in just a second. But yeah, John Taylor is our Tony Khan. I'll explain later. Grapple Geekery says it's the 18th interminable booked backwards Jericho feud. No matter how much I like the wrestlers involved, I can't give two shits about them. Yeah, unfortunately, this is kind of just a bit. It's sad because I see a lot of people, like whenever people are talking about their favorite wrestlers and anyone says Chris Jericho, people are like, oh, I love Chris Jericho, but that doesn't mean I love the Learning Tree. Like, everyone feels the need to say, I love Chris Jericho, but I don't like the learning tree. And I see it all the time on Twitter. It's the asterisk that needs to be said.
I feel like with Jericho, he's one of the best ever at reinventing himself. And for me, this iteration wasn't a reinvention. It was another stable where everybody's kissing Jericho's butt and he's leading it with this flamboyant personality in a sense, right? So it just doesn't feel like enough of a departure from the Jericho Appreciation Society to me. It just feels like a slightly more sarcastic version of that. And then on top of it, everything that was supposed to be ironic about it is just true. Like, Hook was involved for it for way too long. Like, there really is a Jericho vortex. The conglomeration can never move on from it. So, like, all the things that were tongue-in-cheek about it just became the actual truth. So, for me, it hasn't worked on those two levels. I still think there is a tremendous amount of value in Jericho. I just think we need a breather from the guy. He has not had a break since he's started with AEW, pretty much.
Probably just a little bit of fatigue there from the audience, but we got Matt Logan here who says, "Hi Denise, hi Kate. It's better. Hi Kate. Denise is better on the eyes than Alex. Alex have those curly little blue eyes. Actually, I've never seen Alex's eyeballs. Does he have brown or blue eyes?
You know what's funny? I think he has like bluish gray eyes, but
right? Looks like he has the color in there."
When I was getting my lashes done, he was like, you know, every girl I ever dated up until and including my wife has commented like on how it's unfair that he's a guy with like really nice lashes. And it's kind of true. I never noticed it before, but now I'm like, you SOB.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you're stuck with crappy lashes, it's the worst. It's literally the worst. Anyway, so Matt Logan, thanks so much for the super chat. Alex out here catching strays. We got Roberto Arsenal who says, "I'm so ready for this Takeshita title run." Well, let's get into it, my friend. All right, we had a press conference today by the family, and I gotta tell you, this is probably the thing that I'm most excited for on the show besides one more other thing, and I'll mention that later. I'm pretty sure people can guess what it is, but I am so excited about this new version of the family with Brian Cage, Lance Archer, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher. And the reason why is because, one, I mean, on this podcast, we stand Kyle Fletcher here. He is a rising star. To me, he's rising quicker than some of the other people that AEW has put more focus on. And Kyle Fletcher came in and was like, I'm going to take what I'm given and I'm gonna run with it. I love that. Takeshita, great wrestler. Happy to see him become AEW International Champion. Him being with all of these people, I hope rises him up. Brian Cage is that guy that's always really cool to watch, but yet you kind of always forget because he's only on the show sporadically. Great look, so it just adds to the aesthetic of the group. You buy it because you got a big buff guy like Brian Cage. Lance Archer is somebody that I was a fan of for a while, and then when we stopped seeing him on the show, I kind of couldn't really get back on board. So I hope that him being part of this group maybe helps me become a fan again, because I kind of got off the train for a bit, and we'll see if I get back on. But the point is that this family press conference was fun. Everybody got a chance to say something, primarily to Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, which are the ones that are really the ones you really wanted to hear from, right? Because Kyle Fletcher turned on Will Osprey, and he really just said, like, you guys ain't gonna get an explanation, and that's that. What did you think of the group and the family press conference concept that we got here today?
So I'm hoping that somewhere with this, Will Hobbs is involved on one side or the other, probably on the other. Like, if he's not involved in this new group of the family, when he went out on injury, he was. So I'm hoping that his return is imminent, because I know he's cleared. But as far as what we got, I'm very excited for Lance Archer. I've been a big Lance Archer fan for a long time, including his work in New Japan, primarily his work in New Japan, honestly.
Yeah, that was when I was a fan and I was excited for him. And the only other match I've liked of his on AEW primarily was the death match that he had with Hangman.
Death match with Hangman was great. I thought the Osprey match was quite good as well.
Yes.
But he's always been the guy that loses adjacent to the title. Like, they've never really truly put him on a creative track, so to see him here is great. I thought it was weird that they introduced him as, like, the trade, and then he wasn't involved in any segments on the pay-per-view or later that episode. That seemed like a mess, so I was glad to see him out here. Nice to have Brian Cage out here as well. And to your point about Kyle Fletcher, what's so amazing to me about Kyle Fletcher is not just how great he is in the ring. There's an incredible amount of maturity with him from a ring standpoint that you don't see some guys master in their career ever. And I mean things like match pacing and stuff that's like really, really hard to grasp outside of the moves and outside of storytelling. Like there's some very high level things that he does incredibly well. But the most mind blowing part to me is this is kind of all an accident because Mark Davis got injured. Like he was supposed to be in a tag team that I think was being lined up to be tag team champions for sure. And still might get back there by the time we enter Australia for Grand Slam if Mark Davis is cleared. But, his rise as a singles competitor wasn't anywhere on the radar, but he is just so undeniably good. I love Don Callis calling him Kyle by God Fletcher. I thought that was so funny because he's the replacement for Kenny Omega and Will Osprey in this, right? But in real life, he very much credits his rise to Will Osprey. There are times where I go back and watch old Will Osprey and Zack Sabre Jr. matches from Rev Pro, and there's like 14-year-old Kyle Fletcher sitting there on the side, which is just like the best to see. So very, very happy for him. I think he has some sneaky size to him as well. I think he's going to be a long-term star. It's just going to be kind of interesting to see if Mark Davis is healthy, what kind of ends up here. Does he join the family? Does he pull Kyle out of the family? Do they just forego it and let Kyle Fletcher thrive as a single star? They're going to have some decisions to make in that regard. But overall, I thought this segment was a home run. Don Callis isn't always for me. I thought tonight was productive. And I got to say, one of the best managers at feeling out a crowd and turning the screws. Like if you hear faint boos, he knows just what to say to turn it up a little bit. So very productive. And I'm excited for this iteration of the family, not only to help Takesh to thrive, which I'm so excited about, but also to get these new names on track, to get Lance Archer and Brian Cage on a track too. I think having them in the mix is great, but Takesh just going to be like the most over guy in the world. He's so skilled, and I think him holding the international title in particular is going to be awesome. Because they said defending it all over the world. So I'm excited to see what that ends up meaning.
I think that's going to be great. I think that's what, because I mean, think about when Orange Cassidy was international champion and dude got that belt over and he got himself over. Wow. Literally just by defending it everywhere and having some of the best matches. Like we don't talk about it enough, but he had one of the best championship runs in AEW.
Yes,
awesome for Orange Cassidy, of course, but now we've moved past that. What I do like also about the family, it's like a 50-50 thing, right? Where you got two guys there that are guys that have been in AEW for a long time, but necessarily haven't gotten real big stories or anything like that. And then you have these other two guys that have only been with AEW for a limited amount of time, but their potential is so high that you got to run with it. So I feel like it can benefit both sides. So that's kind of exciting to see. But we also have Juan Ortega here who says Marina and the BCC, she's a damn star, stock risen. Yeah, and they're keeping it simple. And I feel like that's what they have to do. Just keep it simple with her.
Yeah, funny we were talking about the Blackpool Combat Club and the family kind of back to back, because my only complaint is the Kyle Fletcher turn and the Wheeler Yuta turn happened on the same night in extremely similar stories. Like they could have done more to make those distinct, but it was like, which side is Kyle Fletcher on? Which side is Wheeler Yuta on? And then they both turned to the dark side on the same night. So that's my only complaint
to me,
there.
The Kyle Fletcher one, because here's the thing, like the Kyle Fletcher turn on Will Ospreay to me hit harder because they were legit friends. So you saw that bond. You saw them team up. You saw that more often. And I know Wheeler Yuta was also with Brian and, of course, all of that. But I don't think that I was necessarily as in love with the relationship with Wheeler Yuta and Brian as I was with Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. So to me, it was kind of like, that was inevitable. Like both of them were inevitable, right? Like you knew they were going to happen. But to me, it hurt more to see Kyle Fletcher turn on Will Ospreay than it did to see Wheeler Yuta turn on Bryan Danielson. I think what hurt most in that ending was just seeing Bryan Danielson get his ass kicked by like a million guys and eventually get taken out. That was the part that was hurt and was sad. But with the specific turns, I thought the Kyle Fletcher Will Ospreay turn meant more.
I also thought it was just a little bit more surprising. Because I felt like obviously the Wheeler Yuta one was coming. Kyle, I felt like actually could have gone either way. But to the point of this chat, what cracks me up is I feel like Marina in if you are going to map those two factions, I feel like Marita's the Lance Archer of this group, which I think is kind of awesome. Like, I think that she's just like this enforcer who's just there to beat people's asses, which I think is largely how Lance Archer is going to be used. So I kind of think that's really fun. And I don't think we get to see women added to primarily men's stables in that role. So I just think that's awesome. I couldn't agree more with this chat.
We got Matt Logan here who says, I expected Moxley to debut a new belt tonight. Oh, God, no. God, no more belts. I'm good, guys. I'm good. I think I'm glad he did not.
Iteration of the world title is what he means, right?
I thought he meant like a new, like one of those, like an FTW championship or a People's Championship. Holy cow. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't want no more belts.
No, I think I interpreted it.
No, he's right. He's right. I interpreted the statement differently, but no, he's right. A new version of the AEW World Championship. I think in my mind, he's still not even AEW World Champion. In my mind, it still hasn't even hit.
This would actually be a cool FTW title story if they wanted to go that route, but I also understand like the caliber of talent you have in this, so of course it's going to be a world title story.
We got well-rounded Leo here who says, I would like to see Mox change his style and not brawl so much. It would make him more of a heel to me. I think his style definitely works with this group that he's doing and this version of what we're seeing. I feel it works very, very well. And I can't imagine he would do a different style, how much more different it would be.
I actually feel like he doesn't get enough credit for how diverse his style is. I think it's largely dependent on what his opponent throws at him. He kind of matches them. Like, I think the Death Jitsu side of him is something that's evolved over the course of this last year and a half or so. I think his default is kind of that brawly style, but you look at like his matches with MJF or whatever and things like that, like he pulls out some of that more fundamental wrestling style. So in his New Japan stuff, I think feels wildly different than the brawler we're used to seeing a lot of times on AEW. So I think you might see him do some different stuff against the next Darby Allin match. I think him and Orange Cassidy are going to have a different match than they had in that international title feud. Like, I think things might start to look a little bit different there. So I understand what you're saying, but don't underestimate how diverse his style can be versus what he kind of defaults to.
Right, because I feel like for the last couple of big matches that he's had, this is part of the reason why I wasn't excited about seeing Jon Moxley become AEW World Champion again, was because the last PLE matches that he's been having were some of the weaker matches of the night. And so for me, I was looking at that and I was going like, damn, I really thought this match was going to be better. And that kind of happened back to back. And so that was sort of like my last, it was the most recent memory of that, right? So I kind of feel like, I think that I am just more drawn to other types of wrestlers. And so when the bar is set at a certain level with certain matches, and when you've seen certain wrestlers work with other wrestlers, and then you see other wrestlers work with them, and it doesn't hit the exact same, that's when I'm kind of like, oh, come on, like maybe we can switch it up, right? So I feel like that's what I want to see from Jon Moxley, is I want to see him be a little bit more where if he does go in and wrestle with these other guys that are so different, I want to see more of like their match versus a Jon Moxley match. And I don't feel like we've been seeing that too often in AEW. Maybe in New Japan a little bit more different, but in AEW, I feel like, yeah, they've all sort of been Jon Moxley matches.
Yeah, I think he could freshen up that base. And if this title reign does follow kind of what I was initially hoping of, him starting to draw out other talent and put them over in the process, that should happen. He should be playing in their worlds a little bit more. So I'm with you. And I agree. Some of those middle matches were not the best. Like the Naito one at Forbidden Door, like I know Naito's knees are made out of sawdust at this point. So like there's certain things for sure that aren't going to be the strengths. But I agree with you. I would like to see him kind of be challenged from an in-ring perspective differently than he has been.
We got a very generous super chat here from Dan Lutzka. Thank you so much for this. He says, the land of opportunity comment that Mox has said was Shane. LOL, I think Shane is the leader of Moxley's group. So this was kind of a theory that had been sort of floating around now for a while. Okay, I'm sure you might have heard it too, whether it was on your own chat or on Twitter. People have been talking about this possibility of Shane McMahon being behind Jon Moxley's group. I'm on the side of I have no earthly idea. I know we have been anticipating the possible debut introduction of Shane McMahon into AEW. I'm here for the chaos. I know some people are like completely anti, completely against it. My mentality on this is fuck it, let's do it. I'm sorry, that's my mentality on this. I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's give me the chaos. Give me something to talk about. Give me something to really react to, because you bet your ass we're going to react to that.
I kind of liked the idea of Shane coming in with the Young Bucks, because I think silly might be the direction for a Shane McMahon thing. But if Shane can pull off a serious thing, I think it could be fun. I've also heard people say maybe it's Josh Barnett, which I don't think it is, but the Moxley-Barnett relationship is something that's kind of interesting. I also saw a fan theory that had said, like, it's not Mox working with someone to avoid getting controlled by anything in AEW. When he was saying they're going to be in control, he was referring to this idea of these people's egos and whatever, like that.
He mentioned that here tonight too.
Yeah, and I kind of like that Mox is the leader of this side. When he was fearing somebody else being in control, it was the egotistical nature of the locker room that he didn't want to build. I kind of like that breathing room. If I'm AEW and Shane McMahon is coming in and I'm getting Shockwave, if it were to end up on Fox, Shane McMahon's the face of my new show on Fox, because he's going to be recognizable to WWE viewers. It would be a general managerial role, which I think we've seen the most that we need to see out of Shane McMahon. Save one Darby Allin match where they're just jumping off a bunch of stuff.
That's what I said. I was like, one Darby Allin match, please.
I'm totally in for.
It's like my guilty pleasure fantasy.
No, it's like them jumping off of stuff and just being insane. I'm here for that match, but I don't need to see a lot of him in the ring. But I feel like if they were to, say, slide into the same slot that SmackDown was, having someone as recognizable as Shane to those habit viewers is 100% what I'm doing if Shane McMahon's on my roster. So I don't know if I want him entrenched in this serious of a story. I probably would have gone silliness with the Bucks, but I'm also not against it in the way that a lot of people are against it, if he can pull it off. But this is a very, very specific type of story that requires like pretty high level acting chops. So nothing that I've seen out of Shane before, but doesn't mean that it's not there.
Yeah, I'm more so interested in that Darby Shane stuff. I just want to see some crazy shit. Honestly, at this point, that's all I'm here for.
There you go. Thanks for the chat, Dan. That was generous of you.
Seriously. Mike T90K is in the house. He says, hello, ladies. Wait, hold on. I can do better. Hello, ladies. I don't know if that was necessarily better, but he said Val Venus voice. How about Kenny Omega cake? So many storylines now. OG's getting screen time. AEW is picking up steam, and it rules. So, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention that cake thing really grossed the hell out of me, man. Yeah. It was so nasty. Like, here's the thing. I can do blood. You know, I can see people get syringes and all of these things.
You love blood. You have blood.
I love that. I love that. I draw the line with two things. Snot and guts. I think those things are disgusting. All right. Anything where it involves anything other than blood, I'm out.
Organs. You don't like organs.
No, yeah. I do not like organs. That stuff grosses me out a whole lot. But basically what they had was the Elite backstage wish Kenny Omega a happy birthday. And they bring out this cake and it has black icing. And I'm going, well, it kind of looks good. This is what I was thinking. It kind of looks good. I don't know what kind of cake they have, but the icing could be good. And then out of nowhere, they just pour these bunch of guts right on top of the cake, and it grossed the hell out of me. So nasty.
Yeah, them saying that he had to give up, like, what they said, like 20 feet of intestine or something. Jack Perry said something ridiculous.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, 20 feet. I was like, what?
Gross.
I was like, I know intestines are long. How long are they?
This was gross. So in a blood and guts match, you're like, I can do blood, I can't do guts. You're like, blood or guts, I'll take blood. You leave the guts. I get you. It was a cute little segment. Like, I think they're doing a better job of recent with Jack Perry of walking the line between this satirical elite kind of thing that we've had going on between cranking up the more serious stuff when he needs to. I thought that Shibata promo he did, everybody was talking about the turkey leg in Shibata's pants or whatever, but I liked the rest of that promo when he was like, I want to speak to you in your native tongue of violence or whatever. Like, I like the more serious stuff that we're getting out of Jack Perry, but they've hit the sweet spot with segments like this of walking that line of, we have this kind of silly over thing, but like there's actually some real deal seriousness underneath it when there needs to be. I think they're doing a good job with that direction.
Yeah, so that's interesting because we need to talk about this. So I know we kind of glossed over it because I was focusing more on the BCC portion of it all, but we did see the Elite out there in that match with Kyle O'Reilly, Rocky Romero, and Orange Cassidy. And during this, I mean, for the most part, I kept thinking, okay, it was prior to that actually. Private Party approached the Young Bucks wanting a rematch. And of course, they basically said no. I gotta tell you, I was a big fan of this segment and the promo because I liked that the Young Bucks brought out their Hulk Hogan line. And we're like, that doesn't work for me, brothers. And I was like, ouch. And then Stokely Hathaway approaches Private Party and tells him, like, you know, had you guys been with me, had you guys listened to me, you could have been tag team champions right now. He's like, you guys haven't done it. You guys have been here, since the Obama administration. And the Obama administration line really got me. And then the little, that doesn't work for me, brothers. That one also got me too. So those two lines made this backstage segment very memorable. But a lot of people, Kate, were up in arms. They were sort of upset the Private Party did not defeat the Young Bucks. I think they're running this back. I mean, I know next week we're getting a 3-on-3 match. It's going to be the Elite versus who are they having team up with him? It's the Elite versus Private Party, and who did they also have as a third person? Daniel Garcia. There you go, Daniel Garcia.
Daniel Garcia, yeah. A few too many angles getting set up by random triple threats. There's a few things that they could freshen up the playbook with in AEW. That's one of them. Is tag team with another guy to prove a point stuff is getting a little bit stale for me. I am of the belief that they should crown Private Party. I think the tag division is starting to heat up and come back a little bit. Some of that is just the Bucks being in the ring more. Which is great because that is where they do what they do best, and I love it. Private Party is that mix right now of team that's been around for a while, has improved drastically, has a really fun element to them. But unlike, and I love MXM, unlike the MXM or the Outrunners, they're not like necessarily as, I hate saying meme over because it has like a certain connotation to it, but they're not as silly dominant. They're entertaining without being like overly silly. I think that silliness certainly has its place in the tag division, but for the tag team division state right now, they need a young team that can do it all to get made by FTR and the Young Bucks. Like, we have seen them go to that well too many times of those teams together and those teams individually. Let's get moving on to making some of these new tag teams that were supposed to be tag teams of the future. Time for them to step into the present here, and I think Private Party is a top candidate for that. The Stokely stuff is good. I would like to see it backed up on some more truths, though, because Chris Statlander didn't end up a champion at the end of their stuff. When Stokely was in ROH, the Samoa Joe stuff wasn't leading to Samoa Joe being champion at that point. The firm stuff never really took place, so one thing I like about Stokely is usually he stands on his shit. And here I felt like the past two segments I've seen from him, he hasn't really been navigating the wins and losses in accordance with what he's actually managed. Sometimes that works for a heel because they're delusional or whatever, but he kind of went out of his way to say stuff that wasn't true, though that Obama administration line did also pop me greatly.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I like that. But speaking of the tag team division, it's true. Like the future came really fast. Like a lot of people, like we said, potential. It's only going to take you so far if they actually do something with you, right? And Private Party is a great example of that. Lots of potential, had that big win over the Young Bucks, but nothing really came about that afterwards, right? So now we're here 5 years later and people are calling for some action to be made here. And it's interesting because we did have FTR versus Big Bill and Brian Keefe. They get their win. But after this, the Outrunners come out and they just they basically just come out, do their little entrance, they dance. Nothing really comes of this, but I'm thinking, okay, well, why'd you bring the Outrunners out? To me, it's like they're just trying to, I guess, paint out what they have, what we're working with on this tag team division. But I think that they should have the Outrunners, have a couple matches on Dynamite.
The Outrunners are an interesting one because I think both them and MXM caught fire in ways that weren't necessarily anticipated. And they had kind of a lot going on with FTR, and then obviously the Hurricane sidelined FTR in a very, very real way. So I feel like this was picking that back up a little bit. I would like to see the Outrunners get some really bright moments, title adjacent, whatever that looks like. And I hate to say it, but like they're kind of the perfect team to then get chopped down by like Beast Mortos and Roosh or whoever who were watching backstage.
I was so excited with that tease. That was the most exciting part for me, where I thought, yes, this is a team. This is a team you push, someone that I can get excited about.
Like there was, I know at Fightful, there was kind of a push for like the Outrunners should win. I think also people are just desperate for other teams to win, but
that's what I think. I really just think it's a fact. I honestly feel that if any team were to win, people would be like, yeah, because we're just over the Young Bucks with this as the titles. It feels like it's holding back the division, which is crazy because the Young Bucks are great. It's just the stories.
It's just time. It's just time.
That's yes.
So I said, like, I don't want to necessarily see an Outrunners title reign. I love how over they are. But if the Outrunners did win, I feel like they should have a short reign and then get annihilated by Beast Mortos and Roosh. And they should have, like, a real deal reign. Like, I think there's healthy ways to do things like that, of shorter exchanges. And then it's like this, everybody loves to pop for the Outrunners. So, like, if you took these feel-good guys and then did depressing things, like have them get, just annihilated by a team like Beast Mortos and Roosh, I think that could be very, very productive. So there's a few avenues that they could go. I'm excited to see the multi-man divisions getting paid a little bit more attention to again overall.
We got a super chat here from Kylie who says, Dynamite was interesting. Y'all are both awesome. Thank you so much, Kylie, for this generous super chat. I really appreciate you hopping in here to the channel. Great little picture.
Kylie rules. Kylie's always supportive and wonderful, and chats I've been in. Very much appreciated.
I love that. Okay, who haven't we talked about? All right, we got to get into Mercedes Moné and Queen Amada. We have not discussed that just yet. TBS Championship match. Kate, you've got the moves. It's like you got the moves. With the money. I can't. I don't even try. But this match, I thought. I was really kind of disappointed, I think, in the crowd here, more so because I felt like they were dead in the water during this match. And I thought, this is not a bad match. Like, they're going in and they're having some really good moments here. I know that maybe some people might not be so in tune with who Queen Amada is or anything like that. You know, she's had sporadic matches, sporadic moments here and there. But I felt like sometimes I feel like if a match is good enough, it should bring your like attention in. I didn't think this match was bad at all. Like, it was good. I liked Queen Amada basically like doing that little butt thing where she was like rubbing herself. I don't know what to call it. She was like rubbing herself on Mercedes. And I was like, okay, that's a little different, right? So you don't see that every single day. I love the headbutt that she hit Camille with. I thought that was great too. Mercedes eventually went with her statement maker, but I just felt like the crowd was so quiet. Like, I could hear people's thoughts during this.
Yeah, I think what I mentioned earlier, that it took us like 20 minutes to get to the first match, I think this actually kind of got harmed by the pacing of the show more than any other match, because I think this was the second match in and people were just like just antsy or whatever. Like it felt a little, to your point, like pin could drop, and it wasn't the lack of a match, and it certainly isn't a lack of star power. I think one of Mercedes' biggest strengths is her ability to work to her size against bigger opponents. Someone compared the Camille Mercedes relationship to Nash and Shawn Michaels, and I'm 100% in on that parallel. I really, really like that. But Queen Amada, her presence and her size versus someone like Mercedes, I thought played really well here. And Mercedes gave Queen Amada a ton of offense in this. Like, this was really, really productive, I felt like, for the women's division. And I think we've seen so much growth, and we've been seeing these women's stars get made, and I love it. And I think Queen Amada might be next up in that conversation. You have this cool alliance going on with Taya and Deanna. You have Mariah May getting made by the Toni Storm storyline. You have Mercedes obviously doing great work here. So Willow and Chris both being made as well. So I feel like it's kind of like, awesome, who we got next? And I feel like Queen Amada is definitely in that conversation. Match was way better than the crowd reaction, unfortunately, but I'm continually so impressed by how great Mercedes works for her size in relation to her opponents when it's someone like Queen Amada, especially, and then Queen Amada's whole presence about her. My God, I thought this all actually played beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel that. We got Matt Logan here who says, missing Jamie Hayter. I know she came in and it was like, oh, pause, we're taking a break. I don't know what's going on there. No idea anymore. But
well, it seems like we set up her and Penelope Ford. So I'm interested to see where that takes place. But that chair shot from Penelope in the 4-pack a week ago feels like they might be setting something up with a returning Penelope. I'd imagine that might be like a collision feud.
I was actually expecting Chris Statlander to come out during this whole bit with Mercedes and Queen Amada because they kind of started that. And I thought, oh, she's probably going to have something going on during this. But then there was nothing. And I just feel like they need to get to a big story for Mercedes fast. Because everything with her and Willow, great. That was fun. Britt Baker promos, great. Unfortunately, the match didn't live up to people's expectations. Fine, whatever. Moving on from that. She needs a real big story. And I feel like right now that it's just taking too long to get there. And that's sort of the same way that I feel about Mariah May. I mean, hell, Mariah May came out here today and was talking about how there's no competition. She's pissed off. She's flustered. Eventually Anna Jay comes in, which is cool because people really like Anna Jay. And she's somebody also that has been in AEW for such a long time. Hasn't necessarily gotten her flowers yet, but she's been putting in the work. And a lot of people are wanting to see her get an opportunity to shine. So she goes in there, gets in Mariah's face. Mariah moves out the way. And then one of my favorite parts of Dynamite today, Anna Jay ends up slapping Christopher Daniels, which was great. That was actually really cool. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I thought we were going to hit this thing off with Mariah and Mina for like really fast. Still haven't gotten to that. It feels like your two big women's title pictures are sort of just floating, waiting to attract something, and they haven't attracted anybody just yet. And so I've been waiting for both of those pictures to sort of get back into business.
Fully agree with you there. I actually thought Mercedes versus Emmy was one of the better women's TV matches that we got as well last week. So I feel like the work rate is there when needed, but we do need a bigger story for Mercedes, especially with Camille as a heater. I'm waiting for somebody to face Camille to get to Mercedes, who really haven't had that. That
was going to happen with Britt Baker. I had wanting to see Britt and Camille, but that didn't happen either.
That didn't materialize. I think right now AEW has all heel champions, and that can set up some great babyface challenges, but you can't go to the Willow well too many times. She's already faced both. Chris, it feels like they turned face and then they reneged because that seemed out of nowhere, so I don't know what they're doing with her. Thunder Rosa was injured but looks to be on her way back, which is great, but a lot of those top women's faces they kind of already ran to the well with, or you had out for injury or certain things like that. When Deonna turned heel, I was excited but weary of exactly this, because I think you could heat up something between Deonna and Mercedes in a really, really fun way if she was a face. I'm waiting on Athena, man. Like, call her up to the main roster. A full story for Mercedes. Athena and Mercedes, run it back every day of the week and twice on Sunday, man. What are we doing?
I even forgot that could even be a possibility. Like, hey,
I'm
what
waiting
are you doing?
for it. I'm chomping at the bit for it over here. Yeah.
Dang. LaRon Ford here says they are dropping the ball with the women at the moment. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to spice things up. I feel like I'm saying that all the time now, but they really do need to spice things up with both title pictures. And also, bless Alvin White Jr. for reminding me of this, because we cannot talk and not mention
Penelope Ford. I've never seen her.
Have you seen this clip, Kate?
I did. I think I might have. Did you play it? You played it on here before, yeah?
Yeah, I played it on here before.
Okay, yeah, that's where I think I saw it, actually. It was on here for the first time.
Okay. Have you seen, or rather, have you heard this one? Hold on. Where is it at? Okay, here it is.
The Greek Freak!
Legendary, yes, of course.
Those are my two favorite clips to play now on this show.
Penelope Ford.
Ford.
Amazing.
All All right, we got 2 more topics to hit on. So here we go. Adam Cole, baby. I think you can't say the baby. It's like you gotta say the baby. I felt to myself I was about to move on, but I was like, no, Denise, you gotta say the baby. Anyway, so Cole goes out there and he's sort of just talking a bunch of shit on MJF. He hates MJF. He says he was basically fighting evil against evil, and he kind of throws some shots at MJF that we've already heard before, like one of them being that about his hair. We just heard Daniel Garcia say that. So I thought, like, okay, come on. Like, Daniel Garcia already had his moment with throwing shots at MJF's hair and all of that. But he brought it up again and just basically said that MJF was an insecure little boy who reads criticism about himself and then goes cries in a corner. And he's talking about how the entire locker room agrees with him and everybody knows that he's right. And eventually he calls out MJF. MJF does not go out there. He's there via satellite. And he's not going to give Adam Cole anything of what he wants right now. And I like that he's had like the do you remember the Dos Equis man?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the setting that MJF had with the Dos Equis man.
I love it. I love it.
But it looks like this match is probably going to be happening at Full Gear based off of like just what we saw here. I'm assuming.
There were a lot of complaints about AEW just dropping stories and not picking them back up. I'm really glad that they did with this one because I think this is a really nice title adjacent feud in the making. Very happy to have Adam Cole back. This was a little bit redundant of stuff we've heard. It reminded me actually of the Ricky Starks promo where he ran down MJF saying like fake hair, fake shoes, fake tan, all that kind of stuff. Like I thought that was reminded me of that as much as the shots at his hair that Danny Garcia took not long ago too. I love MJF's retort in this, saying that the man I am today is not my fault. That's just some really like up the middle classic heel work that was really, really well phrased. Kind of nice to see Max back in his bag. I think I liked the proud American that hated every American city he was in more than most people. I thought that was actually pretty fun, but a lot of people didn't like that run. I think this is like Max at his purest, perfect heel form. And I think this is a really good use of 2 top stars adjacent to the title and still maybe with TNT title implications, right? Like we have that mid-card title that's hanging out there. There's unfinished business between MJF and Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia obviously leading toward what looks like a feud at Full Gear with Jack Perry. So I think there's a lot of really fun possibilities. And I also feel like that mid-card title has not felt very important of recent. So if you're going to be throwing guys like MJF and Adam Cole in there, it's going to feel really important really fast, especially if Daniel Garcia wins it finally, as we've all been rooting for a while.
Right. It feels like that's sort of like now is the chance. Now that they know he's sticking around with AEW, we can run with this story here with MJF losing to Daniel Garcia. But yeah, I just think the story also, I mean, I did not like the MJF Adam Cole story. Like by the end of it, I was just thinking like, what are we doing here? Like this started out really fun and then it just ended in a way where you're like, oh, what did I just watch? And I wasn't a person that necessarily wanted to see the story pick right up again. But I think it almost felt like it had to, though. It felt like it hadn't. We had no closure yet, I think, to it. I could have perfectly been fine and was not circling back to it, but I 100% get why they did it. I think it would hurt Adam Cole if he never went back and, finished this story with MJF. Whereas like MJF had already moved on, was already going in a different direction with Daniel Garcia. So again, it wasn't a story that I felt we had to come back to, but I understand why they did it. We got a couple of super chats here. I want to thank Tim McFall here for a very kind super chat who says, late to join, had to squeeze in Agatha all along. Got to support powerful women. Dynamite flew by. DCF is actually interesting for once. Sign me up with the Cage Archer team, and my little gay heel heart is in flutter for Takeshita and Kyle. All right, I love that actually.
That's amazing.
I was like, let me make sure I'm reading this right. I don't want to assume here. But anyways, I'm telling you, Takeshita and Kyle, there was a picture, a screenshot that I took of Kyle Fletcher and posted it up, and he looks like a boy band member, like from the 90s or whatever. He looks great though. Completely looks like it's an album. We're waiting for him to drop some sort of hit.
I said when he was in his crop top mode that he looked like a slutty home improvement brother. That's how I felt about it.
What does that even mean? Slutty home improvement brother.
Remember, like Brad and Mark?
Yeah.
They all had that hair.
Yeah,
And then he was coming out there in the
did.
crop top. That's how I felt about Kyle Fletcher. Now he's got like the whole jean jacket rock. But I will say Kyle Fletcher physically has filled out a lot as well. And he's a lot taller than you might think. I remember when I saw him on the Jericho Cruise, I was like, oh, he's like tall. And it's very funny seeing him. I've seen him and Sky Blue together too. And Sky Blue's very short. It's one of the like height disparity couples that I love to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sky Blue's my height because I've worked with Sky Blue at Mission Pro Wrestling, so I got to see her there, and she's very tiny, very tiny.
I would put Kyle Fletcher probably like at 6'4", 6'5". So there's like he's a lot taller than people realize. Yeah,
maybe it's because he's around very tall people, other wrestlers.
Yeah, he's like next to Lance Archer here.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
But I wouldn't have assumed that he was that tall.
Yeah, someone can keep me honest about that, but my dad's 6'3", and I was like, I think he's like a little taller than my dad. Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit. That's great. I was going to say that always works, right? It does not hurt to have some height and some, all of that.
Yeah. Especially sneakily so. Like, yeah, he's got some sneaky size to him. So I think it helps with his athleticism too, that he's kind of leaner, but yeah, I love
that he's sort of like
here.
I like that he's worked on his look though, Kate, because he has the more bleached hair, and again, all of the extra accessories and the clothes that he's wearing, it just makes him look cooler. And I feel like obviously in pro wrestling, you got to have a cool look, right? You got to be appealing,
especially as a heel. You got to be the cool guy. Yeah.
And so I feel like sometimes for a lot of people, they kind of struggle to find like their look, right? Like, what hair color am I going to have? What hairstyle am I going to have? What am I going to wear? What actually looks cool? There's a lot of guys on AEW that I think can tweak their look a lot more. And I feel like Kyle Fletcher got his down pretty fast, because I remember like when I first got introduced to Kyle Fletcher a couple years ago, to me, he's like a little kid. He looked just like a little kid, and you're not gonna really buy that. Like, if you're gonna come in here and act like tough shit, you gotta look like a man, right? As much manly as you can possibly get. And
again,
that's
especially
how
like not being in a tag team anymore, right? That's like a whole other layer of discovery of like, I was half of an act. He was kind of the younger guy in the act. Mark Davis was like the older brute. And then it was like, you're a single star. You got to rediscover all that about yourself. So I'm with you. I think the refreshed look has worked really, really well for Kyle Fletcher. And yeah, he's become quite a highlight on AEW programming for sure.
Yeah, he's one of my faves right now. Thank you so much to Tim. We got David Kaplan here who says, hi guys, I'm not trying to be negative, but is MJF and Tony Storm and a roster of older stars and mid-card talent to keep this company going? Thanks. So here's the thing, like, I feel like there's a good mix in AEW in terms of people, like, and we were just talking about it. For example, even just with one group, who are we talking about? We're talking about the Don Callis family, right? Even with just one group, you have people there that have been there for a while with Brian Cage and Lance Archer. And then you have Konosuke Takeshita, who's also, new. And then you have freaking Kyle Fletcher, who we're just talking about, also a new guy. So I do feel like there is a nice little mix in AEW, and we've gotten so used to a lot of the new faces too that came in. So I don't know. I feel like there's a good mix.
I actually feel like there's a healthy mix too. I think now it's time to freshen up some of those younger names. Like I think there was a lot of WWE influx, and that's still kind of happening with Bobby Lashley, but you see guys like Garcia resigning and stepping up, Takeshita resigning or being here and getting his shot after the G1. I think it's Private Party, I hope, gets made in this tag feud. Like, I think it's time to see the baton get handed off more. But I think as far as people that are actually on the roster, I think they have a healthy mix. It's just the way that they're being utilized and highlighted. It feels like they're turning the corner on in a positive direction right now.
Right. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. Actually, this leads us into the last thing we need to get into. So we had Jay White versus Christian Cage. And the big thing that came out of this was Christian Cage defeated Jay White, but he did so with the help of Hangman Adam Page. Now, normally I would have been like, what the fuck? You really had Jay White lose to Christian Cage? But because Hangman Page went in there and hit him with the buckshot, I'm okay with, like, I'm happy because this is the feud that I've been rooting for. Anybody here who's been on the watch-alongs or on any of the post-show pay-per-views, I am so excited for Jay White and Hangman Page. I love the match that they had at Wrestledream. It was a really good start to not only the show, but also their, reignited feud here on AEW. But there's a mix, right? You got Hangman Page, who's a homegrown, AEW talent star, got really big, has seen the highest of successes in AEW, has been world champion, also just came off of one of the hottest feuds in AEW history against Swerve. And then you have Jay White, who made his name in New Japan Pro Wrestling, came in as a big star. AEW kind of dropped the ball with Jay White in the beginning. Like, the booking of Jay White was terrible. I did not feel like they capitalized on his star power that he had gained outside the company. And so that was, sort of my gripe. And now it feels like all of a sudden they're going, hey, you know what? We realized that we didn't necessarily capitalize on this when he first came in. So let's actually do something with Jay White. And so Jay White feels new in AEW, even though he's kind of been there for a little bit of a minute.
I didn't love that Christian won, but I didn't hate it either. This was not like him losing to Billy Gunn bad, but I'm sorry.
That was my least favorite AEW match in history. This is my least favorite. I thought it was the dumbest thing I had ever seen. I just thought to myself, you really just had Billy Gunn defeat Jay White. And I wanted to erase it from my memory. And it was gone. It was gone from my memory.
Welcome for just bringing it right back up. But look where we are now. Let's talk about where we are now. I love that Jay White entered. It almost felt like they immediately said, we realized that we were wasting this guy's potential. He's going to face the top heel in the company, maybe in all of wrestling right now, in Hangman Page, who I swear to God does more storytelling with his eyes than people do with every cell in their body in some of these spots. Like, he's been unbelievable. This is my favorite version of him, and I really liked him as a face, but this Magnum TA version is for me of Hangman. And I also like that Jay White said, I'm coming back for the two people that stood in my way the most, which were Hangman and Christian, and he got right to work. I do feel like I was saying they need to freshen up the playbook on how they set up matches. We are getting too much stuff like this, but this one makes sense for this feud. Like, I feel like we've seen a lot of this kind of thing to advance stories, but I can't argue that it makes perfect sense here. And I also think this all makes the Christian Cage eventual cash-in really interesting, because should Christian Cage cash in and win, Jay White could come in and avenge this loss and maybe win the title from Christian Cage. I think that could be a really interesting direction to eventually go with your world championship picture. And I'm also all for this Hangman and Jay White feud continuing. This should go 3 matches at least. Hangman should win the second. Jay White should probably get the better of him in the feud, because I think it serves both characters to establish Jay White as a top guy, and Hangman just continuing to spiral with losses and going mad is delicious to me. Yeah.
He really loses nothing. Like, he's doing great work, so I feel like he's already a star in AEW, so he loses nothing. Yeah, Jay White's got to come up on top for sure.
Denise, he burned down someone's house, and people are still like, he did nothing wrong. That is how bulletproof Hangman is.
No, I agree, by the way. I feel like he was justified in burning down Swerve's house. We had this whole argument, Reg and I, because that man went into Hangman Page's freaking house and started talking to his kid.
So he was playing a mind game. Hangman committed arson.
Talking to his baby, Kate. He was talking to his baby, snuck into his house with his baby in it.
I'm not saying that's okay, but he didn't kidnap the baby. He didn't harm the baby.
He was still there with the baby.
Okay, but Hangman burned down
on the line. Here's the thing.
Hangman committed arson.
Here's the thing. You can't sneak into someone's house with their wife in there and their newborn baby in there and do whatever the hell you talking to them. No, it crosses the line. To me, that's far worse than burning down someone's house.
I feel like it was a disproportionate response from Hangman Page, but agree to disagree.
Okay, what is an appropriate response, Kate, for someone talking to your newborn baby in a crib?
Not even gonna remember it.
You never know. Baby might have trauma. We remember some stuff from childhood.
Well, then
Hangman on that. I think he's justified.
I don't think he's justified to commit arson, but I do feel like he's justified to be upset about it. But burning down a whole house, I feel like a little aggressive.
Burn it down.
All
Burn
right, Seth
it
Rollins,
down.
let's calm down over there.
I agree with Hangman Page. All right. I think we covered everything now, right? We got into all of it here. Oh, we do got a super chat here from Crazy101 who says SRS just got the lotion out for Shelton.
That is his favorite wrestler, I believe, or a top
God.
5 wrestler for Sean. So it is very cool to see Shelton Benjamin get to sustain his career in this way. Like, he's someone that was so unfortunately held back, I think, by a lot of the hierarchy that was in WWE at the time that he was there. Still won the Intercontinental title, but what that man is able to do in a wrestling ring, especially at that time, was pretty unparalleled. So very happy for that performer to get to continue his legacy here. This is good stuff.
Awesome. Crazy101, thank you so much for making us laugh here. All right, I think that is our show, everybody. Okay, I want to thank you so much for filling in again for Reg, who was decided to take the day off and go enjoy a wrestling show in person.
Running from the grind, right?
Yeah, running from the grind, exactly. So y'all tweet this right now to Reg. Go tweet at Reg. You're running from the grind. Didn't show up to the Dynamite post show. I'm gonna go on Twitter right now and find everybody who tweets that. But no, seriously, Kate, thank you so much for coming into the show and filling in. Please promote your stuff. Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to pick up Reg's pieces or whenever you need me. It's always fun to stream with you. But you can follow me at Miss Kate Fabe on social media. You can catch me on Fightful most nights of the week. Mondays, I'm on Select with Alex Pulowski doing Sour Graps, as well as Tuesday on the main doing your NXT Sour Graps post show. Wednesdays, I'm normally at the Mark Order podcast talking all things All Elite. Thursday and Friday, back at Fightful on the main covering ROH, which... we're going to make it. We're going to make it, guys, through ROH, but also your Friday SmackDown review as well. So that's where you can find me. And thanks again, Denise. I always have fun coming on here.
That's well, I'm rooting for you in your ROH post show, man. Rooting for you.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it.
Alrighty, guys. As for me, just click that subscribe button here on the channel. I'll be back this Friday with Robin to talk some SmackDown. And then next week, of course, back on Tuesday with Chinadu for NXT, back on Wednesday with Reg, and then back again, as you guys know, the normal schedule that we've got going on. Dropped a new interview with Matt Cardona if you guys want to check that out. Of course, if you haven't already, check out the interview with Kayla Becker, the former Kayla Braxton. So there's a lot of new content here on the channel for you guys to check out. I appreciate everybody, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.